In this video, we'll break down split-funded defined benefit pension plans so you can decide if it's a good fit for your small business. If you don't know who I am, my name's Chris Dime. I'm a certified financial planner out of Edmonds, Washington, and I specialize in working with folks to and through retirement. One of the biggest issues that our clients who run small businesses eventually run into is as their income climbs, as an overall percentage of their income, things like IRAs and 401ks, even if max funded, really don't help them accumulate enough for retirement that they can live comfortably off of. And so for those folks, we have to look into alternative means of retirement savings, and we'll use things like defined benefit pension plans. And one of those types of defined benefit pension plans is called a split-funded defined benefit pension plan. This plan combines both a life insurance component as well as your classic index fund, mutual fund component of building wealth inside one of these plans. And rather than bore you and break it all down myself, I invited Nick Johnson, who's a subject matter expert with these plans, onto the call today. And so here's our interview, which should give you some more context into who's a good fit, how these plans work, and ultimately what your next steps are if you think it could make some sense. So let's jump in. Well, hey, Nick, thanks for joining us today on the call. I figured today we wanted to talk about split-funded defined benefit plans. But first, if you wouldn't mind, could you share a high-level overview, who you are and kind of what qualifies you to talk about this? And feel free to make
absolutely. Yeah, thanks for having me on today, Chris. Appreciate it. Excited to go into this. My name is Nick Johnson. I'm actually third generation in my space along the lines of financial planning and really more focused along kind of tax advantage strategies for business owners. So kind of fits really well into what we'll be chatting about today with split-funded defined benefit plans, because it's very much on the vein of tax advantage strategies for business owners towards retirement planning.
Well, quite the legacy there. Maybe could you share a high-level overview, a split-funded defined benefit plan? What is that? What are some of the major mechanics that someone would want to know about?
Yeah, so I'll start with what a defined benefit plan is in the first place. So at its core, a defined benefit plan is a type of qualified retirement plan built for business owners. Now, that's very broad in the spectrum of kind of for business owners and all the different plans that are out there. But really, defined benefit plans are really geared towards business owners that have maybe just been grinding away at the business and they haven't necessarily built up enough of a side nest egg and maybe some type of qualified account. So at its core, it's a very unique way where people can put away significant amounts of dollars towards retirement plans to ultimately save up later down the road in retirement. It's in thin air to the extent that it's typically a plan where you can deduct very large amounts, contrary to a 401k or an IRA. So it's typically made for somebody that's looking to put away as much as possible as far as deducting dollars, people that are very driven towards deducting dollars towards retirement planning down the road.
Gotcha. So we got, classic IRAs that have, a smaller contribution level, 401k plans a little bit higher, and then defined benefit plans. I won't say like sky's the limit, but there's a lot more flexibility in maximum funding and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And gotcha. Comparatively across the board it typically is the highest contribution amount that you can put in, again, on a tax deferred basis for dollars. So people that are, again, small business owners, typically anywhere from about 40 to 50 years old is kind of the sweet spot for these. And they can typically get, six-figure deductions on dollars towards sideline towards retirement down the road.
We've got our defined benefit plans, and then, that's kind of the umbrella term. And today we're talking about split-funded defined benefit plans. Can you share what the split-funded component is and how that's unique from just setting up your kind of, we'll call it run-of-the-mill defined benefit plan?
Yeah. Okay. So let's go back to the original defined benefit plan. So typically, somebody will sideline these dollars. Again, significant deductions, getting these dollars in a sidelined account, typically an equity account or mutual fund or something to that extent, later down the road towards retirement. How much you can put away into that sidelined account is an actuarial formula, and I won't go into it too much today, but basically, you have to follow. Yeah, no, I won't. You have to follow IRS guidelines up to your age and when your retirement is, and they basically tell you, all right, based on your age, your retirement, how many employees you have, we're going to allow you to put away up to $150,000. Let's just use a round number towards this defined benefit plan. Now, the split funded portion of that refers to the dollars that go into it. So your atypical defined benefit plan, again, put dollars into an equity account that grows towards retirement down the road. A split funded defined benefit plan allows for a portion of those dollars to go towards an equity account. Again, dollars that can grow for you, but also a portion can go towards life insurance. The life insurance in itself now creates a side account that has some death benefit coverage for you that you didn't have before. So God forbid something did happen to you from 40 to 50 all the way until retirement, you now have a death benefit component to your retirement plan to make sure your family's taken care of. But additionally, kind of to the selfishness portion of this, I'll say, is that by adding life insurance, a component to it and how the fees work, you can actually put significantly higher premiums into the defined benefit plan before. So using that same example before, let's say it was a 45-year-old business owner, they could put away $150,000 into their defined benefit plan. By now adding life insurance, split funded defined benefit plans, typically we can get that increase up to about 200,000 or maybe just shy of 200,000 that they can now defer. So it's really, really geared towards people that are very deduction hungry. And as my co-part would say, would crawl over broken glass for a deduction, because you can get significant deductions on these dollars by now having life insurance and cash value life insurance as a component of it.
If I'm understanding correctly, your classic defined benefit, pension plan, you could plug, we'll call it 150 grand into that and invest it in index funds, mutual funds, whatever. But then by adding a sliver or a tranche of life insurance to that, your deduction could actually be much higher because as some of the audience might be familiar with, to amortize the cost of a permanent life insurance plan, there's upfront costs to that save you on the back end, but there's higher upfront costs, if I'm understanding correctly.
Yeah, correct. And that plays well to that component of it, because life insurance, cash value life insurance specifically, is a front-loaded fee structure. By having a lot of those fees in the early stages of it, it selfishly helps us for the people that want to put deductions away, because now I'm able to put much larger amounts into this policy and defer that down the road. So, you worded it beautifully there.
And then I guess on top of that too, from the defined benefit pension plans I've seen, especially as some of the folks here in Seattle might be familiar with, like Boeing's, for example, there's not a huge rate of return if you pass away prematurely, which is a terrible way to think about life insurance. But essentially, if God forbid, the business owner does pass away early, there would be an excise or more robust, cash value to be had by way of death benefit proceeds than just the flat dollar amount of some, mutual fund account or index fund account or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. And kind of at its core as well, too, again, kind of with life insurance as a background, my dad, my grandpa, myself, we've heard our entire lives, all these different creative ways of people saying that they'll find ways where you can deduct life insurance. No, there's no such thing as being able to deduct life insurance. This plan actually truly is the only way where there's a component where you can actually deduct costs that go towards life insurance premiums. Now, mind you, and again, I don't want to go too into the weeds. There's a little, the cash value, the dollars you put into it or could be taxable when you die. But again, the entire death benefit that's still there, less of what you put in, is still tax-free, no matter what, to your beneficiary. So it really, truly is one of the only ways that you can deduct life insurance premiums and still have a component of that death benefit that will pay out tax-free.
So I think I'm kind of grasping the concept here. And you kind of touched on a little bit, like demographics for this would be folks making great incomes, looking to, crawl over broken glass to get a deduction. Can you share how someone might view this program in comparison to your classic defined benefit pension plan? What are some things they should that they would value on top of just getting straight, we'll call it index fund type returns?
Yeah. So, and going back to, again, the ideal client, really looking for small business owners anywhere from about 50 to, let's call it 45 to about 60 years old. That's kind of the sweet spot for this. You don't want to have a lot of rank and file employees with it, because it is a qualified ERISA plan that it can get watered down to the extent of how much you can put in. So ideal clients that I've seen: dentists, a small office dentist, real estate people, contractors that have a small office. Those are really the sweet spot for these high income earners that really only have maybe 3, 4, 5 employees. Otherwise, it can water it down again to the extent of how much you can put into it. Love deductions. Really looking to try to get as much deductions as possible. And then going back to the latter part of the question with it, the so what factor with this, by adding life insurance as a component to it, again, the death benefit is huge to have that self-completing portion of this. God forbid something does happen to you early. But by now having life insurance as a part of it, again, you get these larger deductions. And I guess the so what, or the no such thing as a free lunch with this, is that at the end of the day, this is life insurance. That's a component of this. So you have to be medically qualified to even be a good candidate for it. And it's as opposed to probably an easier way for them just to do a mutual fund mix and all that. Life insurance is another step to that actual underlying investment that makes up the defined benefit plan. So it can extend the process of how much longer it is to set one of these up. But when properly structured, I mean, it's just math to the extent of how much more this can actually add to that, that deferral, as well as kind of the death benefit component of it.
Just setting up a classic defined benefit plan, you wouldn't need to get, blood drawn, EKG, potentially all that kind of stuff. But from your experience, small price to pay relative to the cost of not taking these excise deductions.
Yeah, exactly. And it's, and unfortunately, I've had to have some uncomfortable conversations where people fall in love with the concept, and then next thing you know, they come back and they're smoking 2 packs of cigarettes a day, and they had health issues. And it's just kind of, unfortunately, it's life insurance. You have to qualify for it to be somebody for the opportunity with it.
Gotcha. So maybe on top of the demographic is the term insurable, right? As far as someone that could be a good fit.
Well said. And that brings up a good point as well too, Chris, is that I've had a lot of times, to the extent if people are interested in looking at this on themselves, a lot of times it's almost like a conversation like you're having right now. Hey, tell me a little bit more about your health. Have you had any checkups recently? Have you, had cancer? Have you had any of these? And we'll do kind of what we call pre-screen it as well too. So that way we don't go through a full application and underwriting to come back at a decline or something. So a lot of it is in the pre-work of kind of asking the right questions, looking at their health and making sure they're a good candidate in the first place.
So then how does this work on the back end? Let's say, a 50-year-old business owner sets up one of these plans, making large deductions, and a chunk of that's going towards some life insurance structure within the defined benefit plan. And then a chunk of it's going towards maybe just classic index fund, mutual fund type, investments within the defined benefit plan. Let's say they're getting ready to exit the business. And we'll just keep it simple and say they're 60. They're looking to exit the business, sell it, whatever. How does it work for them to use these proceeds for their retirement? What are their options for, I guess, rolling money out of the plan?
Sure. So this is the fun part, and it gets a little into the weeds of it, and sometimes it can be a little tough without seeing some of the numbers. But again, there's a process of funding this over a period of time until you get to that point of retirement. Then you're at retirement. Cool. I built up this great nest egg. I've got this cash value life component. I've also got these mutual funds, index accounts, whatever it is. I want to turn that spigot on for maybe income down the road. So there's a very unique way, and I'll bifurcate the life insurance component of this, where at that point down the road, what we can do is we can exit the life insurance from that plan and make a fair market swap with some other assets to put into the plan. Now, the reason why I do that is when you distribute that policy from the defined benefit plan to you as an individual to use, you're creating a taxable event, unless you can make some type of cash or fair market exchange to put dollars into the plan in its place. So now what I've done is I've made a swap of assets that hasn't created a taxable event. And now I have this cash value life insurance policy that's outside of the plan, completely tax-free to use towards retirement income. So that's kind of part of the beauty with these plans is now, while there is a death benefit component while you're accumulating and building this thing up, ultimately people fall in love with the idea that you can turn this on for a tax-free income stream down the road. So it's going to walk and talk a lot like a Roth, for instance, where I can pull from my cash value life plan to use towards tax-free retirement income if I want. Or if I want to just keep that as a component of death benefit protection towards estate planning or leave towards the kiddos, I can hold on to that death benefit too. So there's some flexibility in the way of kind of using that asset down the road. But there's a unique way where down that road, 5-6 years when we're looking to retire, we can make a swap to get that cash value life insurance out tax-free.
And is the swap based on the accumulated cash value at the time?
Correct. Yeah,
Gotcha.
exactly. So, and that plays into part of the beauty with this too, Chris, is that because there are high fees in the early portions of these contracts, you're not
Yeah.
necessarily going to have an abundance of cash value built into it. But after that period, 5, 6 years is really when you see cash value life insurance turn on from a standpoint of accumulation with low fees. So if I can buy it out at a discount and then now I've
Right.
distributed and now my fees are really gone, well, now I've got a lean, mean looking Roth machine that I can turn tax-free income on from. The front-loaded fee structure with these play very well, not only from a deduction standpoint while you're accumulating, but it works from a standpoint of when you make that distribution down the road. Again, what I'm going to have to pay taxes on
Right.
or distribute from is much more favorable in having a front-loaded fee structure.
I think I understand the concept there. Like you're essentially swapping at a depressed valuation of
Well
the
said.
cash value,
Exactly.
um, whereas your index fund or mutual fund portfolio portion of the defined benefit plan, while it might be down if it's like a 2008,
Sure.
2020 type scenario, for the most part would steadily be increasing. And
Yep.
so there really wouldn't be any like timing benefit to swapping that out. Is it possible for a business owner to make their defined benefit plan 100% a cash value life insurance plan?
No, that another
Okay.
catch associated with it. So typically they limit up to about 50%. And again, it depends on the person, the number, what they're looking to do. But the max you can ever go is 50%. Typically
Hmm.
how we, properly structure these and design it is 70/30. So 70 goes towards, the equities or that portion of it. And then 30%
Right.
about goes to the life insurance component of it.
Gotcha. Of the total contribution each year.
Correct. Yep.
Gotcha.
The one we had one the other day. It was a 55-year-old that we were able to get about $300,000 of annual deferred contributions into the plan, and I mean that in itself was kind of the proverbial mic drop for him because
Yeah.
yeah, he was the one that would crawl over broken glass for a deduction with it, and he just loved the component that yeah, his family was taken care of too, kind of during those years. Who I
Totally.
don't know if he'd ever turn on that the tax free income portion of it, but he also loved that there was some flexibility with that down the road too.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I guess simple math there is 300 grand times their highest marginal bracket equals taxes saved.
Correct.
You
Yeah.
know, at least for
Exactly.
now, they'll pay some taxes on the back end,
Oh
but
yeah.
up
Yeah.
front,
Yeah.
then maybe there's a margin there. Okay.
Yeah. Exactly.
I did have one question about the life insurance planning. So, kind of
Sure.
drawing back on my Northwestern Mutual days,
Okay.
would we be structuring the life insurance plan within the defined benefit plan as like a paid up insurance policy or like a mock kind of paid up policy whereby as soon as they're planning on retiring, premiums are no longer owed into life
Exactly.
insurance plan to sustain cash value and death benefit and all that?
Exactly. And that's kind of perfectly well said, Chris, is we want to make sure it's paid up before the time that we make that distribution back to them as an individual outside of the plan. So yeah, and
Mhm.
that's kind of where some of the beauty is in making sure these are designed properly.
Mhm.
Is that, if I know, Chris, you're going to retire in 5 years, and you want to make max contributions to this during the 5 years, I'm not going to design a plan where it's a 10 pay policy and it's paid up after 10 years. I want to make
Right.
sure I'm shoving in as much of this money into the policy over a 5 year period or however that
Gotcha.
duration is. So, yes, long answer to the extent that these are always paid up while we're making the contributions into the plan. And then down the road, when it's distributed, it's already paid up. No additional premiums go into it. Now
Yep.
it's just an asset class that you can either draw from for tax free income or leave as a death benefit to your heirs.
Well, I guess kind of a more nuanced question as to what type of life insurance is being used. Is this whole life insurance, universal life insurance? What type of permanent life insurance, cash value life insurance plan is usually used for these?
Yeah, so typically we use indexed universal life insurance for these types of plans, although whole life sometimes is a way to fund these as well too. Running kind of the back and forth of IRRs and looking at over the long run, we've found it more beneficial a lot of times to use indexed universal life as a component of this. It just allows for some more flexibility built into the
Hmm.
plan,
Yeah.
as well as if people are looking to potentially use tax-free income down the road. There are ways that index universal life could be a better asset class for that versus whole life, but you can do both. But
Sure.
typically, index universal life is the insurance product of choice. A lot of times, again, using your example, if somebody wanted to fund this policy for 5 years or 10
Yeah.
years, a lot of people will get hung up on the idea, well, let's say I don't really have a good year, or maybe I don't necessarily want to defer as much in that second, third, or fourth year that I'm into this plan. What are my options? Kind of part of the beauty with the firm, that the TPA firm that we work in setting these up, is that they allow for the language and the way that these are built to be very flexible. So I've had some people that, to your point, have not contributed to their life plan in the third or fourth year, but they put in more into the the mutual funds or the index portion of it. So basically, there's some great flexibility built into these, where it's not so jaded and inflexible as some of the maybe plans of the past were built. Is that there's quite a bit more flexibility in how you can design these nowadays.
And you mentioned TPA, which I'm assuming it stands for third party administrator that you're referring
correct.
to.
Yep.
So I suppose if clients found this stuff interesting, they wanted to learn more, and let's say they make contact with you, and it sounds like it's almost like a all-in-one solution, helping structure the plan and then working with a third-party administrator to make sure no one runs afoul of any, ERISA or IRS guidance when it comes to this kind of stuff. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. So if anyone was ever interested in looking at it, the biggest thing that they always need is to get a census report, and I can provide this to you, Chris, if anybody ever is interested, kind of a sample census to get it. But that's the biggest way for them to kind of, again, look at how many employees they have. 2 years of tax returns is very helpful as well too. And then they can kind of reverse engineer that formula. Say, you're 45 years old, you're looking to retire this year. Based on all this info, your employees, here's how much you could put into this plan per year if you wanted. So that's the biggest thing if people are ever interested. The third party administrator we work with on these does a phenomenal job from concept to closure. From implementation towards going to doing it each and every year. They even have a phenomenal kind of spreadsheet, showing how it works, how it's split up, how much contributions make, flexibility. They do a really great job on it. We very much enjoy working with them because they take care of us and our clients.
Well, let's say someone stumbles across this video, or I'm in talks with them, and they want to learn more about something like this. How do they take the next step, or what would be the next step if, let's say, they want to learn more about setting up one of these plans?
Yeah, I would definitely tell them to reach out to you, to the extent of kind of, hey, I'm interested, let's set up a call. I'd be happy to always join as well too, Chris. And then from there, it's just kind of, some good old fashioned fact finding, what kind of business they own, how many employees they have, and then just kind of, again, gathering some of the info to make sure it's even a fit, and then seeing how their health is as well too, making sure that some of those questions and answers are addressed. Because last thing I want for anyone to do is to get into a plan like this and say, I didn't know this, or I didn't get this. So a lot of times it's, gathering up that info first and foremost is most important, because, I've had some times where I've told people this isn't a good fit for you, just based on your time horizon, how many employees you have. So I'd say a good old fashioned, hey, Chris, I'm interested, get me in. I'd be happy to ask all the questions needed. And then from there, kind of take next steps and see how the numbers look, try it on as well.
Is there anything else you want to share relative to these plans that you think would be helpful for the audience to know, or anything?
Boy, I'm trying to think. One component. A lot of people fall in love with life insurance is that you can have long-term care attached to the death benefit on these nowadays. You can't with this way, unfortunately. Is that you can't have long-term care on the death benefit as a portion of these, and that's another one of those kind of unfortunately it just doesn't work in a qualified plan having LTC with it. But that's the only other thing I can think of. Any interest whatsoever, happy to kind of run through any scenario with anybody.
Well, thanks, Nick. Thanks for joining us. If nothing else, we'll call it a day. Appreciate your time. Thanks for being here, and we'll be in touch if anybody wants to set up a call.
Awesome. That was fun. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it. Thank you guys all for having me on.
Totally. Take it easy. Have a good one.
All right. Take care, y'all.
So hopefully that was helpful in breaking down how a split-funded defined benefit pension plan works. If you have further questions, drop them in the comments below or get in touch on the website. And I'll link below to Nick's information as well if for whatever reason you just want to connect directly with their team and ask them some questions. Again, hopefully it was helpful. Have an awesome rest of your week, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.